Student of the Game is on Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel and become a patron for as little as $1 a month, click the link below to sign up. Okay, on to the video. So, you're a highly talented football player who wants to make it to the NFL. Don't we all? You watch the draft every year, like about 11 million other Americans, but unlike most of those people, you think you've got a realistic shot of making it from the living room to the green room, and eventually onto the stage with Roger Goodell. Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but the odds are stacked against you pretty good. Of the 7.3% of high school players that will play college football at any level, only 1.6% of those players will get drafted into the league. It's not impossible, but a study carried out by Ohio State in 2016 found that the likelihood of a high school football player going on to get drafted was less than 0.25%. Not ideal. Luckily for you, though, I've taken the time to create an absolutely foolproof method to get you exactly where you want to go. Using historical draft data and first-person accounts from the scouts and executives that actually run this whole dog and pony show, I've come up with a formula that is sure to not only get you drafted, but drafted at or near the very top of the first round. Can you throw things? If not, I might recommend learning, because the NFL has a fixation on quarterbacks that it just cannot seem to quit. And the reasons why are not hard to figure out. If you have a franchise quarterback, every part of your organization gets significantly better pretty much immediately. Don't have a ton of cap space to sign new receivers? That's fine. The Chiefs just won a Super Bowl with Juju Smith-Schuster and Marquez Valdes-Scantling as their top two wideouts. Don't have much of a running game? That's also fine. Drew Brees played elite football in New Orleans for a decade and a half, while having a 1,000-yard rusher next to him approximately 3 times. No offensive line? Well, that one admittedly does make things a little tougher, but Joe Burrow got sacked the 3rd most times in the league in 2021, and that Bengals team made it all the way to the Super Bowl. In 2020, the Michigan Football Analytics Society ran an analysis of the quarterback statistics that correlated the most with team wins. What they found was that the 3 greatest predictors of team success from a quarterback's perspective were expected points per play, QBR, and average net yards per play. Basically, if you can find a guy who can make plays consistently and efficiently from that position, your chances of winning a bunch of games go up dramatically, both in the short and long term. And the NFL is keenly aware of this, to the point that it's honestly kind of a problem. I took the liberty of running a little analysis for you of the first rounds of the past 10 drafts, just to see if there were any trends that I, as your trusted advisor, could pass along to you. I'm nice like that. And if you look at the data, almost 10% of the first-round picks from that period have been quarterbacks, which is kind of wild on its own if you think about how many positions there are on the field at a given time, but where it really gets interesting is at the top of the draft. If you look at the top 5 of those 10 drafts, 30% of the players chosen over that period were quarterbacks, an absolutely massive overrepresentation of one position in the dataset. And that, my young friend, is exactly the kind of gap in the market that we could try and squeeze you into. We're obviously hoping that you turn out to be a Hall of Fame talent, but if you don't, then we can at least try and turn you into Mitch Trubisky or Josh Rosen. If we can do that, then NFL teams will bend over backwards to convince themselves that you're the next Peyton Manning, even if you are very much not. And on the off chance that we can't, well, thankfully I do have a pretty solid plan B. If you can't be a quarterback, the next best thing to be is someone who is either trying to sack the other team's quarterback or protecting yours from getting sacked. Over the past 10 years, nearly half of the players chosen in the top 5 of the NFL draft have either been pass rushers or pass protectors. And if you're still not convinced of how much an edge this could give you, get it, edge, because we're talking about... Anyway, if you look at this mock draft from CBS Sports for 2023, 8 of the projected top 10 are players from these 3 position groups. The formula for being an elite draft prospect starts with a very simple variable. But we're not done yet, because being a terrifying edge rusher or a pinpoint passer still isn't enough to guarantee your position as a top pick. For the right people to see you exhibit those skills at the right time, first, you need to be on the right stage. If your goal is to be a top-end NFL draft pick, you should not, under almost any circumstances, go to a school outside of the Power 5. Like, the math on this is pretty astounding. Out of the 320 first-round picks taken over the past 10 years, 291 of them, or about 92%, have come from the SEC, ACC, Big Ten, Pac-12, or Big 12. And I know what you're probably thinking. Well, what about Josh Allen, or Sauce Gardner, or Khalil Mack? You know what? Yes, you're absolutely right. There were players from Group of 5 schools taken pretty high up in basically every draft class that I looked at. But my job is to put you in the best possible position to succeed here. And if we're playing the percentages, We need you to steer clear of small schools at all costs. Since 1980, do you know how many players from the group of 5 have been taken first overall? 3. David Carr in 2002, Alex Smith in 2005, Eric Fisher in 2013, and that's it. Part of this is because NFL teams don't put as much effort into scouting group of 5 schools as they do the Power 5 ones. Why would they? 2/3 of the league come from the Power 5, so it makes more sense to send your scouts where the majority of the talent is going to be. They get more bang for their buck sending their scouts to watch Florida rather than Florida International, so if we can help it, we're going to try and get you to the first one. You may have to wait a couple of years to get playing time, but in the event that you go to a smaller school and put up ridiculous numbers there right away, you're still going to have to fight against the stigma of playing against inferior competition. The data says that players from small schools are almost just as likely as those from big ones to make the Pro Bowl, but NFL front offices barely care about that, and we need to minimize the risk of violating their perceptions as much as we can. So get yourself ready for prime time, my young friend, because we've got to get you to as big a school as possible so that as many teams as possible can see what you can do. Speaking of which, let me tell you a story about a guy named Nolan Smith. No, not that one. This one. Going into 2022, Nolan Smith was one of the best players on the best team in the country. He was a consensus choice to be picked towards the bottom of the first round, at least, with the potential to move up significantly if he had another big year at Georgia. But then he tore his pectoral muscle against Florida and was done for the year, evidently tanking his draft stock. Prior to the Combine, CBS Sports' Kyle Stackpole had Smith going 31st to the Chiefs, but afterwards, he had him going 20th, and other analysts like Todd McShay have him going way higher than that. So what happened in between? Well, to put it mildly, Nolan Smith absolutely crushed the Underwear Olympics. As a nearly 240-pound edge rusher, Smith ran a 4.39 second 40, which would have put him right near the top of the rankings for running backs and receivers, let alone defensive linemen. He also posted a 41.5-inch vertical and a 10-foot 8-inch broad jump, all of which reinforced something that scouts probably already knew, but for some reason love having confirmed in this setting. This guy is a freak athlete. If you can put on a big combine performance, you can absolutely get football people to fall in love with you. And that isn't limited to just doing things like running, jumping, and lifting weights. The combine is also where a lot of NFL prospects get to show off their poise and football acumen through interviews, both with team executives and members of the media. In 2022, Ravens GM Eric DeCosta told The Ringer that getting to personally interact with prospects is a huge part of the combine process, and when it was canceled in 2021 because of COVID, that may have been the thing that the teams missed the most. And not all of this stuff is just scouting voodoo. That same article mentions how many teams use analytics to study the correlation between things like a tight end's 10-yard dash time or an offensive lineman's arm length and their future success in the NFL. But if you can ace the combine, like Anthony Richardson did this past year, you can go from a virtual unknown to a legitimate prospect, or from a legitimate prospect to a can't-miss talent. You told me you wanted to go at the very top of this thing, and to that point, I gotta be honest with you. Even if you jump high, run fast, and do really well in your interviews, it may take something truly spectacular to get you there. In the past, I've referred to the NFL draft semi-exclusively as a league-wide unicorn hunt, because functionally, that's exactly what's happening. Teams see players like Aaron Donald or Tyreek Hill and think, you know, if I can get me one of those kinds of guys, we'll probably be in pretty good shape. And in a sense, they're right, but sort of by definition, players like that don't come around all that often, if ever. They're unicorns, players who have a completely unique combination of size, speed, athleticism, and creativity that make them essentially impossible to try and replicate. But let me tell you, that does not stop NFL executives and scouts from trying, every single year, to find them anyway. Take Anthony Richardson, for example. If Anthony Richardson was 6'1" instead of 6'4" and looked like a regular human instead of like this, there's no way that his on-field performance alone would have gotten him to this level. In his one season as a full-time starter, Richardson finished 11th in the SEC in quarterback rating, completed 54% of his passes, which was second to last, and couldn't lead Florida, one of the biggest and most prestigious programs in all of college football, to a winning record. But because he looks like this, runs like this, and can make throws like this, people inside the NFL look at him and see someone who, if he can put it all together, could revolutionize the quarterback position and be a cheat code for their organization for a very long time. Will he be? I don't know. There's a reality where that's exactly what happens, and he makes people like me look really stupid, but historically speaking, real unicorns don't come around all that often. Teams are usually better served by just picking someone who's proven to be an effective horse instead, but that fact alone doesn't seem like it's going to be enough to get them to stop looking anytime soon. And that's actually really good news for us. If you had to be exceptionally good to get to the top of the draft, we might be in trouble, but all we need to do is get you to appear to have the potential to be exceptionally good, and we'll be in good shape. Maybe just camp out in the weight room until you can bench press 225 a ridiculous number of times, or work on coming up with the most charming press conference answers that anyone's ever heard. All of these things, in combination with each other or even just on their own, have the potential to help you stand out and win over all the scouts and executives who might want to pick you. Everything we've talked about before is important. Picking the right position, the right school, the right workout regimen, but if you can do something that makes you impossible to ignore, then there's a good chance you will be. So that's our 5-step process to getting you to the top of the draft. Starting with choosing the right position and finishing by doing something so unbelievable that no one will be able to stop talking about you. For maximum results, I recommend doing all of these steps exactly as I've described them, like a lot of the prospects at the top of the 2023 draft have done. Bryce Young? Check. He won a Heisman playing quarterback for Alabama. We've already talked a lot about Anthony Richardson, so he's obviously through. Will Anderson? Absolutely. In a lot of other drafts, he would be the no-brainer #1 pick. I'm telling you, man, this is the secret sauce. It won't be easy to do, obviously, but if you can jump through all these hoops, all 32 of these teams will be falling all over themselves trying to draft you. All you have to do is be a quarterback-adjacent player from a big school that has an incredible combine and can get enough on tape to make people think that you're the next Patrick Mahomes or Von Miller. You think you can do that? Hello, hey, hi, how we doing? I'm Will, and just wanted to pop in here at the end and say thank you for watching this entire video. It means a lot, but you know what would mean even more? If you liked the video and subscribe to the channel. Only if you liked it though. If you didn't, then I guess you can just click one of those thumbnails over there in the videos that YouTube recommended for you. We're also right in the middle of a Patreon drive, so if you did enjoy the content and think you might want to support the channel financially, you can click on the link in the description below and check out all the different tier options. In any case, watching one of these videos automatically makes you one of my favorite people ever, so congratulations, and see you next time. Bye.